I'm not gonna worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about
Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
Let's go Steelers!
Mike Tomlin eat chicken wings?
We're not urinating on the fire, man.
We mock ourselves.
It's the show where I promise you, you will not hear the words Super Bowl, Taylor Swift, or onomatopoeia. Those are the three words. If you hear those words, this show is free. I'm not even watching. The only big game in my house is The Traitors Season 2 on Peacock.
There you go.
It's what Jin's talking about. The conversation about the Steelers' social media conversation. Exposing all your hot and toxic takes, even in the cold winter of off-season. I'm Kyle Kreis in the glasses and the big boy earphones. Across from me is Greg Benevent.
Hello.
Coming up in the second half, we'll do a little tease. Is there much to tease? How about the what? I don't know. I got this pitch in an email. I know you won't hear this on anyone else's pod because I got this pitch in an email.
Here we go.
What AI says the average Steeler fan looks like. And I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what this means. Maybe we'll get to that in the second half.
Uh-oh.
I was kind of like, what? This is kind of AI. I can do this on my own with AI. But
sure.
Then I was like, you know what? I don't know. I'm not seeing it. But by the time we get to the end of the show, maybe you'll see it. So,
ooh.
All right. Let's just get to the jingle, because the one thing on everyone's mind, QB22 plus 2. Where are you?
We've got some work to do now. QB22
plus 2.
Who are you?
That's like 24.
Some help from you now. You know we've got a mystery to solve. Which QB do we want, gold and black? But don't get sad. If QBs do what they should do, then they can earn themselves a yellow jacket.
Or at least an invitation to the NFL honors ceremony. QB 22 plus 2, that equals 24. Mm-hmm. Just to bring back the jingle.
I'm glad you did. And folks, you unfortunately do not get the honor I do of sitting next to Kyle when he adds in the dog noises. It really does add something, and I'm grateful to be here for it.
What are those other pods? We do stats. We do film. No, we do none of the above.
Absolutely not.
This is like the Nevada election primary. None of the above wins.
Wow.
Who is going to be? That's
topical.
Okay.
That's topical. Yeah.
That's for all you Apple News heads. The question is, who will the QB be? It took two, not one, but two press availabilities from our owner to figure it out. Let's get to the tweets. This is a little bit of chronological here because it started with at BT Steel Curtain, behind the Steel Curtain. Art Rooney II says the Steelers aren't closing the door on trading for a QB. I believe this was the state media interview with Missy Matthews. Is this where this came out, I believe?
I mean, that sounds right. It, like you said, Art Rooney II did more availabilities than I thought he was going to. So, yes, I believe this came out from the Missy Matthews from, high atop the Steelers media complex there.
Which I think is the biggest nothing thing you could say. Like, we're not closing the door on anything. Yeah, I mean, hey, we may call Ben if we need to,
Right. I mean, why would you say, absolutely not, we're never trading for a QB? Thank you.
So, of course, that started the conversation like At Mark Madden X, Mark Madden. And this kind of plays off the question before. What was Art talking about with urgency? To display urgency, the Steelers should get Cousins, Wilsons, or Fields. There's nothing urgent about Pickett. Those are two different things. Let's start with the first. Should get Cousins, Wilson, or Fields. That seems to be the top three. Even the two are on the market. One is just availability of trade, apparently.
Yes, and also, too, just even if I agreed with this point, which I don't, it's not right. Fields is not displaying urgency. Fields would need to develop.
He's still not the guy. Where's
right? Yeah,
that's still potential. That's really
right.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of potential. It's maybe higher potential, but it's very much potential.
I mean, you could get. We keep saying a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett. You could get. Is Jacoby Brissett the same kind of mobility of Justin Fields right now? Or
no, he's not. But Jacoby Brissett is still the best Jacoby Brissett type.
Still the best QB like
Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, let's talk more QBs with. At Blitzburg, Ray Fittipaldo says there's less than a 1% chance Fields becomes a Steeler. I think the speculation is that it's going to take at least a second round pick. Are you willing to?
No. I don't even need to hear you finish the question. I'm out. I mean, it's if this was poker, I would fold as soon as I saw the flop for Justin Fields.
You don't know what you're talking about. Like it's just annoying.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it's second round pick. This team needs. I hope I used the word flop right. I haven't played poker in like 2 decades. So. Okay, thank you. But this team has a lot of other needs, many of which there is more of an urgency to than Justin Fields. So that second round pick can be put to a lot of good use. And frankly, from Omar, we've seen he can put it to good use.
What are our needs? I keep hearing people say center and tackle are the biggest priorities. I was thinking defensive line.
I think, again, I've said it before. I'm going to keep saying it. If you liked last year's draft, that's what's going to happen again. They could do the offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. That is, I don't know the order of those three. I do think that's what's going to happen. I think they'll get a center probably pretty early. But it's also, again, we haven't been through free agency yet. They could sign somebody. They could trade for somebody before that. So, again, that's why I'm sticking to, as we sit here in February, saying that about what the draft's going to be, I'd say offensive line, defensive line, cornerback in some order.
I think the Kevin Colbert style used to be, he used to say, anything's on the table but QB and tight end back when it was Heath and Ben. So I think anything could be on the table except running back room. What about wide receiver? Not first round, I don't think. Early,
but it could be, I don't know. Again, I haven't looked at any of these guys, and mercifully I won't do so until it's legitimately spring. But that there could be like the super receiver falls to them. I could see them taking that guy, but in this current wide receiver market, that seems unlikely to happen. We're never going to have the Randy Moss falls to 18 or whatever again.
We can't speculate and recollect.
Well, really quick, one more. What about inside linebacker? We still don't know who is coming back and who is not. Right? Is that a priority?
I think they could. I think you're right. I know you're right. They don't know who's, and in terms of injury, that impacts who's coming back and when. But I also think this team, and rightly so, is perhaps a bit gun shy about putting a high pick on an inside linebacker.
All right. How about? Well, there's more QB talk here. Let's get to. Oh, come on. Let's get to. Let's go back to Blitzburg. Who do you want the Steelers' starting quarterback to be in 2024? Number 1, Justin Fields, 46%. Number 2, and this surprised me, is Kenny Pickett, 30%.
I'm surprised to see that, too.
Then Mason, 18. Then Russell Wilson. Kirk Cousins not even on the board.
I think Tannehill is more likely than Fields or Wilson, I got to say. With Arthur Smith coming in and Tannehill not having a job and not being nearly as expensive as he would have been years ago.
And I'm still curious about how this timeline is going to work because I don't think you're going to know what Mason Rudolph's value on the market is until after that first weekend or first
48 hours.
And if we're trying to have urgency in that marketplace, I don't, can you do both? Can you wait for Mason and still have urgency?
Well, my guess is that the Steelers will, and I have no idea here, but the Steelers would present Mason with an offer soon, and whether or not, and then it's up to Mason and his people to decide if they could get more on the open market. It's worth it to Mason to at least check out, and it's entirely possible that somebody does to Mason what the Steelers did to Mitch Trubisky when he first came on the market after his season in Buffalo, and they signed him, I want to say, like 9 a.m. Pacific time. That was really early on that day, I remember, when the Steelers signed him.
Oh yeah, there was someone flew over the international date line to make that
right.
to make that happen.
Right, and so it's so that someone could very well do that to Mason, but I imagine the Steelers will present him with an offer. But Mason and his people are going to go in the market and check it out because why not?
If you're let's put ourselves in Mason's shoes. We just made $1 million this past season, and if let's just say that the Steeler offer comes in below $7 million, which I think is what Mitch made. I think this right, $7 million. So that's a low offer. You know what you have in this system. You're not guaranteed to start. They're invested in Kenny Pickett because every time they have a chance to diss Kenny Pickett, they do not.
Right, exactly. Even the guy who literally just got here.
Yeah. So there, if anything, not that it's an open competition. If it was any weighted at all, it's certainly
you're the underdog going into this.
Yeah. So what do you do if you're made? You have a chance to maybe make your a $7 million contract or something.
Absolutely. And I think everything you said is correct, and I do want to piggyback on it. I don't think, and I would find this extremely unlikely, whatever that Steelers offer is, I don't think it's going to disappear or be taken off the table during the first 2 days of free agency. I mean, do you really think if Mason says, no, I want to see what the market says, and then by like noon on Monday, the Steelers sign Tannehill for like $5 million? I find that extremely unlikely. So I think maybe it's not impossible now that I'm starting to talk about it.
I think they might come to him first and say, this is the offer, but if you don't take this, we're going to be extremely aggressive on the first day or so. So,
okay.
if you don't take it now,
sure.
we might go after we might have to get Tannehill.
And it's entirely, that could be too, but
because you can't lose Tannehill and Mason.
Because then you start saying, well, maybe we could give a bridge to get Kirk Cousins or something. Wow. But yeah, I just think Mason is never going to be in this position again.
Yeah.
And you have to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he's looking for the Triforce.
Right, exactly. Well, that was Final Fantasy, and not the Legend of Zelda. But that's okay. Finally, something I'm qualified to talk about on this podcast.
There's Mace. He found. All right.
Mason got the hook shot.
Oh wait, but all of this recollection it was really moot because then we had to have Art come back. At PGH Steelers now. Art Rooney is back. He's like stone cold. He's back. Break the glass. Art Rooney II says the Steelers making a blockbuster QB trade is unlikely. I don't want to create a lot of speculation out there too late that we're going to make some blockbuster trade at the QB spot. I don't. I'd put that in an unlikely category. So, and the only thing I can think of is because one, we have to handhold the media so much. You have to come out and do that. Also, we just don't want Kenny we don't want this to be the message in Kenny's ear all off season.
Yeah, and I do like this is very, very political. Is in the politician made the comment at noon, realized how many different groups got upset, so we had to clarify and come back out and say it again at 5 p.m. But I think that's right, that we're not going to do this blockbuster trade at the QB spot. I don't. I mean, I'm glad he came out and clarified it. I wish he wouldn't have had to. But again, I'm with you. I read the first one as being like, we're not going to take any options off of the table because we're a business.
Yeah. So I mean, all right. So blockbuster QB trade is off the table. What about just a blockbuster QB signing? What does this say now about Russell Wilson or Kurt Cousins? Well, I think Russell Wilson would technically be a trade, and Kurt Cousins is on the market. What does that say about a blockbuster free agent signing?
I mean, I wouldn't rule that out either. I have no idea. The Wilson thing's weird to me because I think it would be a trade, but it would depend on like whatever pennies on the dollar thing the Broncos wanted to do with him. I just find that to be the remotest thing. Like, I don't know whether Fields or Wilson is less likely. That would be a difficult debate for me. I could see Cousins before I could see the Wilson thing, but I don't know. It all feels very unlikely. It feels like Pickett and either Mason or Tannehill, and a draft pick in like round 4 or 5.
I think that let's do a vibe check. I think let's if
sure.
Wilson Wilson doesn't. I don't know. I'm not feeling that.
No.
I'm not feeling Kirk Cousins.
No, just because it's so expensive.
Yeah. So we're down to the Mason, Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett. What else is in that kind of conversation?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Colts are getting rid of Minshew. He did a fine job. The Buccaneers are going to throw a bunch of money at Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think at that point, like, the thing that was intriguing to me, and I don't know, is that I mean, if we're going for mid-level quarterbacks, where does that kid get drafted? The one at Florida State, the one who was having the good year, and then he broke his leg, and then the BCS committee was like, well, without this quarterback, your team sucks. We're putting Alabama in the playoff. So, like, where does that kid get drafted? Because he's going to heal, and he certainly seemed to have a lot of talent. I mean, if you could get that kid in round 4, I could kind of see that being like, okay, this is your Justin Fields.
What about Cinderella story Josh Dobbs? Is there someone like that out there?
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, that could be the break glass in emergency in case, like, somehow Mason and Tannehill are gone. I mean, I think that answers that conundrum you had earlier. But I really do think the Steelers, one way or the other, are looking for that, like, long-term backup. We know that because that's what they were saying going into last year's draft, and they were thinking about it in round 7, but they ended up taking that offensive lineman they liked that can play, like, 4 positions and backed up, like, 3 of them or something in the last year, that Spencer kid.
Well, I mean, at this point, the long-term backup might be one KP8.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. So yeah, that's not off the table either. And that is the story of this season. Whatever this story is going to be, that's definitely Act 1.
All right. Well, let's get to how about some coaching. So
Okay.
is this con season technically?
I have no idea. Is there a Tomlin?
We'll do con. We'll call it con season. I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
I should have I am Groot coaching tree, something like I am
good.
Groot. Mm-hmm. All right. Coaching moves starting with wrong mouse. Starting with at Brian Batko. If any position group on the Steelers roster needed a change, talking about wideout coach Frisman Jackson out. One guy on the coaching free agent right now is Hines Ward, not returning to the XFL after heading up the San Antonio Brahmas last season. Of course, I know who Hines Ward is. He should be our wide receivers coach. Although, if you remember, how did this come out? Did this come out during the Pivot interview? The reason why Hines Ward was not our wide receivers coach 5 years ago was because he wanted to lay down the law on AB, and Coach T said that's not how we're going to do it.
Right, and it's and what we now know, I think the context was that's not how we're going to do it because that literally could not work, and AB would melt down and lose his mind.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it would have ended how many years even earlier?
Right,
yeah.
it's exactly. There's in that world, there's no Killer Bees era. Like,
yeah, AB is the is the Lima Swede.
Exactly, he's the one that
yeah.
gets traded to the Raiders for draft picks at some point. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if it can't be Hines Ward, and I'm fine with that would be awesome if it was Hines Ward, it would be pretty awesome. But I don't think it's gonna. And if it's not Hines Ward, why not? Nope. Why not at Steeler Nation? Steeler Nation. Could the Steelers give Antoine Randall L a promotion to bring him back to Pittsburgh? The only other wideout that
right,
Steeler
exactly. The
fans
other
know.
great one from the other one we can name from that era. I mean, but you would have to give him a promotion. You would have to make up one of those titles and give him more money. I don't know if he would be assistant offensive pass game coordinator, assistant head coach, something or other. And I did not realize this, and I guess I should have, but you cannot interview somebody for a parallel position on your team if they're already on a team without that team being able to block it. So the Steelers could not just interview him for wide receivers coach, because the Lions could and would, I assume, block that. So you'd have to give him some kind of promotion. And hey, it looks like things are on the upswing up there in the Motor City. So, I mean, I think you'd have to make a pretty good offer to as Myron called him, to get him to do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get to work with, George Pickens. I don't know if that's enough to bring someone.
Well, I mean, Jamison Williams had some issue, right? I mean, he's a great player and he's done well for them, but I mean, he had some problems as well. So I mean, but I think that's just it. I think you would have to pay more for Randall L, and you'd have to give him more of a say in other things than just wide receivers coach than you would with Hines or someone else that just is a wide receivers coach, or it's something much smarter people than me have brought this up. I forget if it was I think it was Christopher Carter, but a lot smarter people than brought this up is that, the wide receivers coach can be the guy who coaches the wide receivers. It can also be a guy that's like, hey, we think this guy is really smart in terms of offense. Let's give him a job.
That is a reasonable expectation.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, I don't know. So it could be some, mad scientist, Madden kind of guy.
Well, if it can't be Hines Ward or Randall L, why don't we call up Kobe Hamilton? I mean, how many Steelers wideouts are out there?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Matt Kranchek, but he was a tight end that was like a wide receiver. I don't know. Lee Mays. I mean, we can just start naming guys Louis Lips. I mean, there's a bunch of, old Steeler receivers out there. There was a moment, was it Tuesday night, when they thought Ronald Curry might be coming over as quarterback's coach or wide receiver, but he'd signed with the Bills. So I think we're kind of in that speculation point of like, hey, if you're an offensive coach, we could make up a job for you.
You could be the next Brian Flores over here. All right, we're going long. Let's get to the second half. Coming up in the second, we're going to talk a little Tomlin for good news. It's something that needs to be repeated every off season, or maybe every season. And then what AI says the average Steelers fan looks like. You might want to head over to YouTube to see what this one is, because I don't know if I'll be able to do it justice over the audio. We'll find out though. And Steelers in Brazil, maybe? We'll talk about that. Okay, coming up in the second half. Oh, who are the people in Yin's neighborhood? In Yin's neighborhood. In Yin's neighborhood. Say, who are the people in Yin's neighborhood? The people who will tweet each day. Oh, hi there, fellow Yinzer.
Hello.
You look like a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
I've been a fan my entire life.
Wow, so who's your favorite player?
Just one? I don't know, maybe TJ or Minka or Najee.
Well, what about Coach?
Coach Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, the standard is the standard and things of that nature.
Tomlin should be fired.
Fired? Isn't that a bit much?
I don't think so. Oh, Tomlin is not the reason why he's never had a losing season. Just because he's won a Lombardi doesn't mean it wasn't Cowher's team.
'Cause a Tomlin hater, someone in Yin's neighborhood.
In his neighborhood, I'm in his neighborhood.
A Tomlin hater, someone in Yin's neighborhood. A person who will tweet each day.
I'll see you around.
All right.
Hey, watch it. Where you going? To a fire?
Ah, fire Tomlin.
Now cut that out.
Tomlin's not the problem.
Thank you.
The problem is the quarterback. This guy is the worst starting quarterback in Steelers history.
Well, we'll find out in camp.
Are you kidding me? The team's best hope is to tank and get the #1 pick.
Well, that kind of feels like hyperbole to me.
I'm the only one who's actually being realistic about this team. Oh, the Steelers really lost their way. I've been saying that like every day. I want everyone to look at me, so my opinion's always contrary.
'Cause a clout chaser is someone in Yin's neighborhood.
Inion's neighborhood.
He's in Yin's neighborhood.
And Tomlin haters, someone in your neighborhood.
Well, they're the people that you meet
When you're scrolling through your tweets,
They're the people to delete each day. All right, it's the second half. I promised no Taylor Swift talk. Although if Steelers would have beat the Chiefs, I bet Mason would have stolen the girl. Walk in your trap, take over your trap. That would have been the storybook ending for this season.
I mean, even if Freiermuth had with it, he's probably not as traditionally handsome a man as Kelsey, but he's a good tight end.
Yeah, but I think he's taken, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I believe so.
I would trust you on this.
I'm not stalking their the significant others on Instagram, but if I were, I would know that Muth is taken.
Okay.
Let's talk about my coach. At Scarpizio Scarps. We knew this, but it's just kind of a reminder.
Sure.
Active head coach records against opponents that have finished the season 500 or better. Minimum 150 games coached. Number 1, Mike Tomlin, 529 percentage, 74 and 66. Tomlin can't coach his teams up to the big teams. Nope, not true. Not true. But then there's also the narrative. Oh well. Tomlin always plays down to his opponents too, right? Well, in reality, at Scarpizio again, this is Tomlin's record against teams that finished the season, what is this, to 500 or above. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's Tomlin's record against teams below 500 on game days.
Mm-hmm. Excluding the first 2 weeks when you can't really be under 500.
Yeah, you can't be 500 on the first week. Once again, overall, 671, 70, 34, and 1 over wins against teams below 500 when on the field on game day. I was actually surprised that it was that high.
Yes.
Who do we lose to? If we beat the teams over 500, we beat the teams under 500. Who are we losing to?
Well, a couple things. Is it one, you're about to see Tomlin's statistics look far, far more impressive, whether you're a hater or a believer, due to what you saw in the first tweet of this, which is among active coaches.
Yeah.
Now that Belichick is no longer an active coach, Tomlin goes up to the top of a whole bunch of different stats. Like everyone goes up one thing, and Tomlin looks far, far more impressive. Now, these numbers about the losing teams, we did know this for a while. What we kind of knew, and this came up in the really bad 3-game losing streak this year, is that a lot of the losses to, or some of the losses to the worst teams with worse records are more recent. That's kind of something that's happened in the last 50 games. Over the course of his career, very impressive. The kind of losing stats, the losing teams, those have been not as good recently, but they also haven't been like absolute bottom out. The teams with really bad records, it hasn't been great against, but everything goes into everything else. But these are still very impressive numbers, and these are also the kind of numbers why it was so obvious that he was coming back even after that, what do you call it, tailspin or typhoon or bottoming out or whatever happened in that 3-game stretch during this past year.
Yeah, right. Between this year, the Colts, the Cardinals, the Pats. Last year, it was the Jets. 2018, the tie's up there. You can put the tie up there. So that's 5 games in that's 5 years, I guess. But 4 of those games came in the past 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. And it and also and then you go back to the lockdown year, and you got the Bengals and you got the Commanders, and it's but
Commanders,
But see but that's what we're saying. But that's what brings these numbers down to where they are. I mean, without those games, imagine how preposterously high these numbers were then, going into 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, too bad. I can't believe the haters didn't pull up the record from since 2020. Tomlin's record is, all of a sudden that would be a Mark Madden feast. Man, I should be his producer.
Right. I think Zeiss did that during the 3-game stretch. It's how I remember this. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were all back padding because Paul Cook retired over there at the PPG.
Cook, yes.
Ron Cook or whatever. Yeah. So PPG was already being very anti-Tomlin so far in this, in recent months here. So now that he's gone and someone else comes in, we'll see if I bet it gets even more along that, And
that would make sense because Cook was Roethlisberger's guy. I mean, he was the guy that Ben wanted to do his radio show with, and I think because of that show that Ben did with Cook is why Ben has that podcast today.
All right. Let's, I think that we got a band. Finally found me, renegades, need a documentary. I think there is a documentary.
I still listen to it on the treadmill in the off season. It's still for the harder parts of my high intensity interval training.
I can't believe they didn't invite Tommy Shaw to the We Are the World sessions. I watched that doc where I can't believe they didn't invite Terry Bradshaw.
I guess I just always assumed that someone from Styx was there. I never knew that. I didn't.
No, Styx wasn't big enough at that point. So
okay. I know nothing. Like, to me, it was like I'd heard Renegade on the radio, then all of a sudden it appeared one day in Heinz Field, and I was like, oh my God,
If it was 76 at the height of Renegade's original powers, maybe it probably even been Tommy Shaw. It would have been the singer. Why can't I think of his name now?
Oh, okay, I know.
Whatever.
I thought that was the name of the singer since you said it. I know
the guitar player also is Tommy Shaw. Also from whatever.
Okay. I'm learning things.
Okay, we've got some odds and ends to get to, starting with at Alex Kozora. Mm-hmm. In a series of Snapchat stories Friday night, Le'Veon Bell says he's attempting an NFL comeback, feeling healthier than ever, implied he'll only return and play for Pittsburgh. Any other season, I would have been like, yay, come on board, but the room is full, I think. Unless you're going to play, you want to play special teams?
You beat me to it, yes. Unless you want to play special teams. The only way that I would ever even entertain this is because, like D'Angelo Williams, Bell has not taken a hit in several years. Whatever tread is still on his tires is still there. Also, I want to say that's easily the most positive thing that followed in a series of Snapchat stories on Friday night.
Yeah, right. Like
usually that goes very badly.
It's a boring Friday for Lev. He's talking about his NFL comeback.
Right, exactly. Usually that ends with in jail.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
that's just it. You got to play special teams. Whoever the third running back is, and you know who I think deserves a look as the third running back is the guy they brought in through the end of the season that made that remarkable play in Baltimore. I think that guy deserves a look in
the
camp.
Special teams.
He was a running back. Let him run with Master Teague, whoever it is they bring in. Let him compete. I think he's earned the right to do it.
Or the kid we talked to, maybe he's back from IR. I don't know.
But that's just it. But there's always going to be a guy from somewhere, probably young, probably just out of school, to maybe be the third running back who can play on special teams and stretch out enough from the out of bounds marker to touch the ball.
Although, just as a devil's advocate, Adrian Peterson did show that you can have some durability, and he hasn't been hit.
Right. That's the only reason I'm entertaining this at all.
But do you have to wait until you're down to injuries, or do you want to see him in camp just to see what you got?
I bring him it depends on, again, we always talk about it's easy to say we'll give him a thing to the rookie camp or something, the very first camp you could bring him to. It's or we could bring somebody who might actually have a better chance of making this team and be a rookie. But I think the other thing that kind of made me a little wary of this now that I think about it is, didn't in one of those series Bell said something like, I'm going to start working out in March. It's maybe we should start today if we're serious about this. this, playing in the NFL.
It's like the Royal Rumble. We need the senior spot at rookie camp. Like Lev Bell gets the senior spot. He comes in and gets a tryout. Next time it's like Arthur Moats might want a shot. I don't know.
Also, but like you could do some push-ups today. Like you didn't have to tell us this on Snapchat. Like,
okay, how about let's go move on to at Blitzburg, the return of Blitzburg.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I don't need to see the NFL on TV every single day. It's getting oversaturated. This is in response to a possible Friday night Week 1 game, Philadelphia in Brazil. I love how the account who is tweeting every 30 minutes in February is like, oh, this is oversaturation for this NFL oversaturation. I mean, on the topic of it being a Friday, which is, usually high school Friday night lights, but, in the NFL's defense, 64 out of the top 100 televised broadcasts of 2023 were NFL football games.
Yes.
So, if you could turn that, if you could add 17 Fridays to that, all of a sudden you've got 80 of the top 100 broadcast. Not since Law and Order had 4 series did such a franchise dominate broadcasting.
I mean, I just want to say the only reason I would be fine with this on Friday night is that in Week 1 that allows both teams to recover and doesn't really screw them up for the rest of the season.
Oh, it's a Week 1 Friday. It is Week 1 Friday.
It would be right after the Super Bowl whoever the Super Bowl kickoff classic, whatever champion plays that night. It would be that first week, which then they wouldn't play again until the subsequent Sunday, which would allow both teams to recover. That's the only reason I don't think this is that stupid.
Well, and then the recollection around it. Oh, let's go to. Sorry, this is on Threads. Let's go to.
Excellent.
Bill and Threads. Okay, I don't know.
Great. That's so great.
At Matt Lombardo, NFL, Eagles versus Steelers in Brazil would be mildly hysterical. In-state rivals playing 5,000 miles away. I mean, we're not really rivals. I don't hate it. It's their home game, right? I don't hate it.
Yeah, it'd be their home game. In fact, that's what I heard. That's why some people smarter than me, I think it was Alan Saunders, said they don't think it will be the Steelers just because they do think it's the Eagles are have this game because they have the 9 home games this year, so they still get the 8 in Philadelphia. So what Saunders thought, and this makes a lot of sense, is the Steelers won't do this. Instead, the next time the Steelers have the 9 home games, one of them will be in Dublin.
Oh,
and that makes sense.
I want to go to Dublin when that happens. I've never been to Arkansas, so whatever. Let alone. Okay, one more thing.
But I mean, it does say something that like we could play at Happy Valley, but instead we're playing in Brazil. Like that is this man's point is correct.
Yeah, the stadium is. Yeah, you're right. Happy Valley would fit 100,000 people.
Right, it's almost equidistant. It's as good a guess as any.
Okay. Oh wait, I got one more thing. Did I play the music too early? Whatever. Final word. This isn't even a tweet. This came to me in an email. The pitch was here's what AI thinks the average Steeler fan looks like, and it's
not too far off.
Middle-aged guy, overweight, glasses, clean-shaven.
Yes.
The other teams all had beards. I found that interesting that the Steeler guy was clean-shaven.
Yes.
What does this tell you about Steeler fans there?
Well, I mean, he's got a unique hat because I see it's AI, and the Steelers logo is in 2 separate places on his stocking cap. I don't know. I mean, I feel like AI has given into the I don't want to say myth, but just the idea that there's more cold weather games in Pittsburgh than you think. There really aren't that many games with snow. They aren't exactly 80 degrees and sunny, all of them, but the man's wearing, I want to say, 2 or 3 coats, 2 or 3 layers, a coat and levels beneath it. He's got on at least 2 scarves and a big stocking cap with a little furry thing on top. And a cup of coffee.
Yeah, he's not drinking an iron. He's got a coffee there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well.
I mean, I've seen worse. I mean, this guy is, I don't know if he's going to the game necessarily, but like if he's not going to the game, he's got something to do in the morning before the game, which is why he's suited up for this.
Yeah, he's got a job, but he doesn't look like he would be a cool boss.
No. This guy's not happy about whatever's going on. The Steelers either the Steelers lost the game before this, or like they didn't win by enough that this man's been complaining about it all week.
Does he want to fire Tomlin? I think this guy might.
This guy has strong opinions about firing Tomlin, but he's also the kind of guy that, like, when they're winning, like, he'll go to his friends that have stronger opinions about firing Tomlin, and he'll be like, he's really good against the teams with losing records after all. Like, this guy's fine with citing some stats, just to show that he's not like the other Tomlin haters.
No, but this guy, remembers a standard when Super Bowls were the standard.
Oh, yes. No. He saw Andy Russell in a bar once in 1979. Yep.
Jack Ham never saluted after a first down catch. Okay.
I will say, I thought this picture was going to be far more disrespectful.
The other teams were like super fanatic fans with face paint and all that, and like weird beards. But we got middle management.
This guy does look like he just said, "I'm worried about that 4th round pick. I think he's going to be a bust."
Oh, all right. I think that's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about.
Thank you, Coach. Coming up this off season, none of the standard average below average content.
There will be no mock drafts until much later.
Not at least until March.
At least until free agency.
Yeah. We'll have maybe next week coming up. I think we've got the Marine who got the trip to the Super Bowl from TJ Watt. We'll see how TJ is in person when he's not when he's getting snubbed from Defensive Player of the Year honors. Coming up in March, the return of March Madness. This year, March Sadness. The 64 saddest moments in Steelers history.
We're trying to see as fewer people to watch this as possible.
Well, it fits with the fan base.
Yes. Yes. No. This is what you wanted deep down.
And what else coming up this offseason? I don't know. If you want to keep
plenty.
That's plenty. That's coming up. Maybe a play-in game even to the March Sadness.
Ooh.
If you want to keep the conversation going, find me on social media. I'm mostly on TikTok at Kyle Kreis. Greg, how about yourself?
Unfortunately, you can find me on Instagram at Greg Benevent. B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
If you're in the Burbank, California area, come to Flappers Comedy Club this Saturday night to see Greg and maybe myself. Or tune in to the Game Show Network February 22nd.
I'll be tuning in.
Blank Slate, the one and only yours truly in maybe the worst game show performance ever.
I saw myself in The Price is Right. You could not have been worse than me.
All right, until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.